Welcome back to another episode of Conversations with Colie. Today I'm speaking with Nathn Baws. Nathn is an entrepreneur who started from humble beginnings, being the child raised by a single mom doing what she could, to entrepreneur to many different businesses. Welcome, Nathn.
Thanks, Nicole. Lovely to be here.
Thanks. I always ask an icebreaker question, and this is the one I created for you. What do you believe the key to success is?
Wow. That's a good question. I think persistence is got to be one of them, right up there. Just keep going until you get there, and having the grit to constantly just push through when there's always challenges along the way. So yeah, that would be one of them. I'm sure there's a lot of different.
That's a good one. I think that's a great one. Tell everybody about yourself.
So I'm based in Australia, Western Australia, in Perth, and been living here all my life. I studied as a naturopath originally, so in the health industry. Brought up, my big passion is business. I just love business. Anything related to business, I could talk about it all day, every day. And I've been involved in 15 different businesses that I've started over the last sort of 20 years. My very first time in entrepreneurialism was when I was 6 years old, and I had a stay at my cousin's farm, and we decided that we needed to make some money. So at 6 years old, we thought that was a pretty good time to start our money-making career. And I'd been brought up eating potatoes a lot. So single mum, and I just remember meal after meal after meal being bloody potatoes. And it got a bit monotonous because obviously they were the cheapest thing, and, raising it to my brother, my sister and myself. So at 6, I decided that I didn't want to eat potatoes for the rest of my life, and that we needed to do something to make money. And back then it was all about, well, how do you make money as a 6-year-old? What do you do?
Yeah.
So we didn't really know what to do. So we thought making money actually meant physically making coins and notes.
Uh-oh.
So we thought, exactly. We did that now, there'd be a big issue. But we thought, okay, well, let's find a way of making money. What looks like money? Maybe if we can find something that looks like money and convert it into money, then maybe that would be the best thing you could do as a 6-year-old. So we walked around the farm, and his dad was a big fan of beer, and there was plenty of bottle caps all strewn around the farm. And they looked like coins. So we thought, well, that's a great starting point. So we collected all the bottle cap lids, and we started writing 20 cents on them and things like that. But after a while, we figured out it's probably not going to work. So we thought maybe business would be a solution. So we sort of sat around the boardroom table at 6 years old, and I said to Jeremy, my cousin, well, what can we do? What are we good at? Maybe that's a starting point to find a business that we're good at. And we came up with the only thing that a 6-year-old probably excels in is paper aeroplane making. So we thought, let's do a bunch of those. And we were in the middle of West Swan, which is a rural area, no cars, no traffic, no anything, farming sort of area. So we set up a table, and we built a bunch of different aeroplanes and paper aeroplanes and put them on the table, and waited for traffic to come past. And over the 2 hours that we sat there, there was 2 cars that came past the whole time. And unfortunately, I don't know what they were thinking, but they didn't stop. They just kept going. And halfway through, I said to Jeremy, mate, I think the problem is we don't have a big enough bucket to put all the money in. Maybe that's stopping us making money. So he disappeared out the back of the farm and brought a wheelbarrow back and said, I've excelled in my job. I've found this amazing wheelbarrow. We should be able to put a lot of money in when we're making it. So we thought that was the solution. But as it turned out, it wasn't. And we found that we learned a few lessons out of that little experience, that we needed signage. And now in every business that I run, I have a ridiculous amount of signage, so there's no lack of communication. We get the message out there very clearly.
So you learned that at 6.
Learned that at 6. It was a great lesson to learn. So since then, I've done a lot of different businesses. I just love it. I love starting businesses. There's so much opportunity out there in the world for opportunities for creating businesses, for solving problems that people have. And there's so much space there that, you know, people think there's no opportunities now, but just everywhere you look, if you ask the right questions, I'm finding that there's just too many opportunities out there. So since then, yeah, I've done a bunch of different things, been involved in health, built 3 health shops, started a supplement, natural vitamin supplement range that I sold across Australia, set up clinics, set up a weight loss program, did property. I've done property in the US, actually, in UK and in Australia. Taught property and strategic, creative methods of acquiring property without any of your own money. And then what else do we do? So marketing, and just set up a weight loss program in Indonesia, run through hotels. So that's a little bit of a snapshot about where I've come from and the potato days to up to now.
Yeah, and kind of tracking back to the potato days. Now, growing up a child of a single mom, was money a problem when it came to education for being an entrepreneur? Did you ever think about that when you were growing up?
Money was always a problem for everything, you know. That was just, and I wouldn't replace that. Everything that we've gone through in life is so important to see the positive spin so that it actually takes you forward. So without that pretty rough upbringing, I mean, there was plenty of love and there was plenty of care and all those sort of things, but just no dollars in the bank. So mum worked very hard to bring us up, to put us through school, but it was fantastic in a way, because it gave me the drive and the motivation to find solutions later on in life. Yeah. Because once you've been there, you never want to go back. So you just want to push forwards and stay motivated to move forwards. Yeah.
Yeah. So how old were you when you started your first legit business?
What do you mean? Paper airplanes was totally legit.
I mean, that is legit.
Yeah. We just didn't make any money out of it. So I did that. Look, I got my first job. So I went through the when it was I was at Burger King, we call it Hungry Jack's in Australia, and Red Rooster, fast food sort of takeaways, which was good because then I opened up 3 restaurants later on in life. So that gave me a bit of a foundation of skill set for that. So that was 14 when I first started working, and I got pretty excited because it was, you know, you can actually bring money in after my paper aeroplane experience of no money and being brought up with no money. And so having that little first glimpse of wealth creation at that young age was so exciting. So that was 14. And then I studied naturopathy. So that was about when I was 18, 19, 20. And I found that I could borrow from the college these iriscopes, which were these big expensive machines, and they would let us take them home and practice on them over the period over the weekends. And I thought, oh, this is great. Maybe I can take that and use that as a business. So I would take it home on the weekends, and I would go to different markets and set up little market stalls using this very expensive piece of equipment and offering people health advice. And that was my first real entrepreneurial wealth creation activity. And again, that was I'd get paid $5 or $10 for a little consultation. And at that age, I thought that was just amazing as well. I thought it was like I'd hit the jackpot. So
yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. So you just were born with the entrepreneurial bug.
I think so, based on this light's a bit terrible. Sorry about that. Based on just the upbringing of lack. That was significant motivation to find solutions to not be in that again.
Yeah. So as you were going down the journey of entrepreneurship, did you ever run into issues where it wasn't going so well?
Totally. Yes, had fair share of those. So I had been in working for an amazing entrepreneur who was a pharmacist, and I was running 8 of his pharmacies in the health industry. And I was having a really good understanding of the health sector, and I thought, well, let's go out on my own. And I'd been doing that sort of part-time while I was working for him and learning all the good stuff business-wise from him. Went out on my own, did really well, opened up 3 health shops in the supplement brand, and that just went incredibly well. Sold all that up, and eventually after 7 years of being in there, and thought, okay, this is cool. I got to a stage actually where I could go into retirement. I was kind of in a really great position, and that was in my early 20s. And I thought, I've mastered this. I can do anything. Total arrogance and arrogance, total arrogance. So I thought, I'm good at this. What else can we turn our hand at and make happen? And I'd been overseas for 3 years doing property. That worked well. And then I came back to Australia, and I thought, restaurants, that sounds like a fun thing to do. And they say with restaurants, how do you make $1 million in restaurants? Start with $2 million. And
so true.
Yeah. So that's what we that was a significant learning period, and brought me right back to earth and gave me a big slap in the face. And I set up one restaurant that did quite well, and then I thought, well, let's scale, let's go big. And then I set up another 2 and started absolutely hemorrhaging money doing it so badly.
Yeah.
So yeah.
What was that like? Because you, up to this point, were used to kind of making it happen. You had the Midas touch, so they say. So what was it like when you faced failure?
It was tough. So yeah, I mean, when there's 10 to 20 grand disappearing out of your bank account every month, you get to a stage where after a year or so, realizing that maybe your skill set isn't quite suited for that sector. And I was doing a lot of, I had a mentor, a really well-known Australian mentor who was guiding me, and who I started seeing and working with sort of later on. And he said to me, "What are you doing it for?" And I said, "Well, what other options have I got? Like, I'm kind of engrossed in it. I'm kind of trapped in it." And, I had long leases and all sorts of things. And in my wisdom, for one of them, I thought, oh, I've got a good deal on the lease. Let's take it out for longer than usual so I can lock it away. So I said, oh, look, 5 years is standard. Let's go 7 years, which was, stupid, absolutely stupid. So I've made loads of stupid mistakes along the way, but so I got to a point where he sort of said, what are you doing? Just get out. And there was a lot of ego tied up in just walking away, closing a business. Yeah. Massive ego, big slap in the face, from going from, doing quite well to total failure, as the way I saw it in my business. And he sort of said, just get out. What, because I kept thinking, no, I can do this. I can turn it around. I can push it. I can do this and this, but I couldn't. And so I eventually just started winding down the leases and negotiating to get out of these places, which I eventually did, and good decision.
Yeah. So did you find that you went through any type of like a mental health struggle over it because you were so used to like making it through?
Yeah, well, certainly the ego got totally bruised. There was no question with that. I think I was actually just juggling. I had so many balls in the air that I was just focused on getting through, which was kind of a good thing, which didn't bring me down mentally. So
Yeah.
it was like, I've just got to keep going. I've just got to keep going. I think if I'd had 5 minutes and sat back and looked at the scenario, I probably would have gone, holy shit, this is terrible. So,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And probably would have got super depressed, but but I just didn't have the luxury of time to balance 3 restaurants that weren't doing too well. One of them was doing well, 2 of them were just sucking the cash out.
Yeah.
But to balance that out, I'd set up 5 other pop-up sites around shopping centres, retailing our product. So that was sort of helping to offset to a degree some of the losses. But even on top of that, we had significant losses. So I think it was mentally wise, it was just keep going. You've just got to push through. So I was lucky in a way that I didn't fall into the trap of depression and, like so many people do. And I kind of feel that momentum in itself helps push you through any of those problems. And it's where your mindset goes as to if you dwell on garbage, you get garbage, garbage in, garbage out, stress in, stress out. So I had a lot of stress, but in a different direction. It was more about, let's just keep going. Let's just keep treading above water.
Yeah. Smart.
So I wasn't thinking about it at the stage. It was just, that was the only option.
Yeah.
There was no such thing as throwing in the towel and surrender. It was just like, we've got to get through this. So,
yeah. So how did you shift from that into the next phase?
So it was getting to that realization that that I'd actually totally stuffed up. I'd totally plummeted, failed, and that was a bitter pill to swallow, coming from doing okay to just totally stuffing everything up. So once I'd accepted that and I was at peace with that, then things started shifting. So I almost had to say, you're a failure, like had to actually admit at that stage that I'd failed.
Yeah.
And I'd never thought of saying that, because I'd always been reframing every situation. It's like, oh, well, I'll get a good learning curve out of this. I'll learn this. The benefits are here because I'll learn that. But it was interesting because I got to the stage where I said, no, I've totally effed up big time. Like, I've stuffed up. I have failed in this. I'm not a failure, but I've totally failed in this. And learning that, accepting that was huge. Was just like, wow, okay, I'm not pretending anymore. I'm not sort of I'm actually accepting the reality as it is today. And I want to, now that I'm at peace with that, what's the next step? Let's move forwards. So that was when I started moving the assets on, closing or selling the different restaurants, working with a partner who's taken over one and doing nicely out of it now. So I think that was the shift of just accepting how it was, not pretending, just going, okay, this is reality. Now let's move to the next step.
Yeah. So what got you passionate about natural foods?
I think my hippie mum. So she was a bit of a hippie, and we were brought up on mung beans and alfalfa sprouts quite a bit, and that sort of resonated with me. I just saw naturopaths as a kid. That was the solution to health problems back then. And I didn't understand what it was when I went to study it. I thought it was tarot card reading and all sorts of things, which I had no idea, which I realized it was a world away from that. So there's a lot more sort of science and biology and human biology and all sorts of cool stuff, biochemistry. And so that's, I studied that and really enjoyed it, because it's a great industry to be in, because you can just apply it on yourself. Everything you learn, you can apply to your own body. And then I realized there's a huge amount of opportunities in that field. I mean, there is in any field when you look creatively, but that's what got me through that one.
Yeah. Yeah. And it falls in a right time, especially with all of the mass production of food. Everybody's looking at the sugar contents that are being jacked into our foods and certain preservatives and things like that. Did that inspire you in any way?
That inspires me now. That's a big passion. I actually didn't mention one of my main businesses. I have a business called Tommy Sugo, which is we're funny enough, a pasta manufacturer. So we manufacture some beautiful foods, really sort of high-end gourmet, like, duck ravioli with kakadu plum and wild mushroom raviolis, things like that are very unusual, but really phenomenal. You just, when you try them. So that's a big component. And that I've brought over all the health side of it. You always have to have your unique selling proposition, your USP. You always have to have a unique angle. And because I'm passionate about health, I've brought that into my business. And things like you mentioned, sugar is such a big issue. That's one of my absolute pet hates, I guess you'd say. With my kids, I always try and, keep them off the sugar. I mean, it doesn't work, but that's my goal. Sugar's in everything. I mean, so we make things like our tomato-based sauces, our pasta sauces. We caramelize the onion for longer and we cook the acidity out. So we cook it for 3 hours, our sauces, rather than the commercial ones. They cook for 30 minutes and they add a ton of sugar to it. So that's come into all my businesses with the health side of it. It's got to have a health angle on it. And although I have a pasta business, I've also set up this weight loss program in Indonesia, in some hotels over there. And life's a balance, right? Yin and yang. So
and if you're active, you can have the pasta.
You can. It's all a balance, yeah. So I mean, there's a lot of pasta out there with lots of additives, and they gas flush and they do all sorts of things to extend shelf life. I freeze all mine so that we don't have to put any rubbish in it, and then so that's another way of actually cutting back on all that unnecessary stuff. If you put great ingredients in, you don't need all the additional rubbish. The problem is a lot of the food manufacturers out there do cheap ingredients. They put breadcrumbs and they put all sorts of poor cuts of meat or without much flavor in it, and then they have to add stuff back into it to get it to a level that it's actually there's semi-flavor in it. But if you just put real good ingredients in the first place, you can avoid all the unnecessary additives. So that's what I focus on.
And is it affordable?
It's affordable. Look, we're definitely more expensive than supermarket pasta and all the commercially made pasta. But when you're making small batch with great ingredients, you have to be, because you can't put numbers in. Numbers are cheap to produce, artificial additives, flavors, all those sort of things are very cheap to produce. So they're great for the masses. We don't focus on the masses. We just focus on people who want a really healthy product with massive flavor. So for example, my father-in-law, who makes it all, he's Sicilian and he's all about flavor. And my background's in health. So we always try and mesh health and flavor together. So the price point is definitely more expensive than the supermarket, but it targets a customer who wants a decent product and is prepared to pay a little bit more.
Yeah. And so who is it available to people in the States?
No, unfortunately.
Oh, what a
sorry about that. It's I'll have to ship some over for you, but no. Yeah,
because honestly, I don't know if you've looked at what they shove in the American people's food, but it's not good. I know that there's I heard that in the UK, you are not even supposed to market food or sugary snacks towards children.
Right.
I don't know if that's true, but here they market the crap out of everything and put sugar in everything. And so if if it was something made available to the States, a lot of us over here are like, we want to eat better because we want to survive. We want to live.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, totally. Well, sugar is such an addictive product. You know, if it's not fat, it's sugar, and they will take one out and put the other one in, and they'll claim they're low fat, but they'll be full of sugar, or vice versa. So it's an incredibly addictive, you know, product. So it's not surprising that the manufacturers want to produce it, and people just love it. It's interesting actually because we run a keto weight loss program in Indonesia, and we're actually offering that to all countries around the world now. But that when you go into ketosis, and this is something I really get excited about, but when you go into ketosis, which is where you take out the main carbohydrate fuel source and your body looks for a different source of fuel, so it breaks down your fat tissue and releases ketones. And these ketones, when they're in your body, they're absolutely magical because you don't crave sweets and you don't get hungry. You don't get hunger pains. So being in ketosis is a really lovely way to avoid that sugar bouncy curve that you go through. In fact, I think I've always been against sugar. In fact, when I was 8 years old, I gave up sugar. So I totally gave up lollies and chocolates because I was quite competitive at tennis back then, and I thought any little mindset benefit that will give me a little bit of an edge would be good for the mindset to create the discipline for regular tennis practice as well. So
nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Do you think that we'll see a market where we'll have more foods like yours out on the market and less of the overly processed, mass-produced?
Yeah, I mean, I can't see the mass-produced ones going away because of the nature of the economics that are involved. It's just a cheap product that, and as people though on the flip side of that, as people get more educated about what impact they, you know, all these foods have on their health, then we definitely, those people with that awareness, that market's just going to grow and grow and grow. I mean, we're great that we're well and truly into the information age where everything's readily available. It's just, I think, the connecting the information with the actual action and outcome is going to be what most people will find the challenge. But there's more and more foods coming onto the market that give absolute great substitutions. So great substitutions that don't affect taste, don't impact on taste. So, for example, in our keto weight loss program, one of the big focuses is to have an alternative for every product that we take people off. Mm-hmm. So if there's a great bread alternative, a pasta alternative, a sugar alternative, then it's so much easier to transition into a healthier eating pattern. So I think more and more foods. I know my sister spends a lot of time in the US, and she's always sending me photos of these great products that you've got access to over there with without sugar and low carbs and all these sort of things. So it's a fantastic sector to be in because it's hugely, if you can substitute, people won't feel a loss.
Exactly.
And that transition, you know, is going to be so much easier and faster, that transition.
Absolutely. Yeah. Have you ever thought about creating like a program on how to nourish your body properly?
Yeah, no, with everything else that's going on. But I'll add that down and we'll pop that into the to-do list for next year.
There you go. There you go. Hey, you never know. You might find some free time.
Yeah.
So what is on the horizon for you, Nathn?
So look, the passion about business is massive. I just absolutely love business. So what we're doing now is I'm just starting a little group of business people from anywhere around the world that want to grow their business. And I could just, as I say, talk business all day, every day. And we're doing quite a lot in the space of lead generation and marketing and social media marketing. And I've got a team, about 12 of us now, and we just do that sort of marketing to grow businesses. And so what I'm putting together is just like a free system where businesses come together. We're just going to network. We're going to meet online every month, and totally brand new. Hasn't been. We haven't done our first one yet, but we're just putting it in place. And so people can come to the weekly, the monthly webinar and just bring their hurdle, their one big hurdle of whatever their business is going through that is not allowing them to grow profitably and financially, and we'll just help them work through those problems. So it's just what I like nerding out about, just finding solutions. I love, and one of my business partners, James, he loves problem solving. So we just do it because it's fun. That's it. So
That's
we
awesome.
don't go out, we don't go out Friday, Saturday night. We don't have a life. So this is our social life.
Hey,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
So how do people find your group?
Well, if they connect through my Nathn Baws LinkedIn, once I've got it completed, I'll be able to send everyone, a little invite, and they can join us, and it doesn't matter where they're from. We'll try and set it up so that it's at a suitable time, US, and I imagine most of your base is US based, are they?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. So we'll try and do it so that we can. I'd love to get some US businesses involved. That'd be great fun. See what their challenges are. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
That's
Perfect.
awesome. Do you have any final words for everybody?
Find, I think, in the business world, and I suppose in any aspect of life, is just finding that passion. Like if you can find that passion where what totally floats your boat, what makes you excited, then I don't think there's too many problems in life. If you love what you're doing and just keep searching until you do find what you love, I think that is the solution to pretty much any problem on the planet. So if we're all running around doing stuff we love, who's going to be upset? Like it's hard to get pissed off. If you're in that zone of just totally loving it. And I think not a lot of people get there. I think not a lot of people find that absolute passion of what floats their boat. And I think if we can ask ourselves the right questions of, they say the quality of your life is determined by the quality of the questions that you ask. And I'm a massive believer in that. If things aren't working out too well for you, ask the better questions. How can we do differently? What can we do differently? And I think if you can ask the right questions to find what totally gets you pumped, gets you springing out of bed every morning, then the world's going to be in a pretty awesome place.
I agree. Thank you so much for being on the show and sharing all of your insights.
My pleasure. Thanks so much for having me, Nicole. It was fun.
Yeah, it was.
Excellent.